industry development. This dilemma gives rise to today's keywords, sustainable and green transition, which has now become an obligation, not an option anymore. Sustainable energy transformation can take a variety of forms in different contexts. For instance, Bulgaria is placed at the center of regional energy networks, and Korea is heavily dependent upon global energy supply chains. Nonetheless, Bulgaria and Korea have surprisingly similar challenges. For instance, how to reduce dependency on coal as the main source of electricity generation, how to make improved and sustainable use of nuclear power, and how to explore an alternative mix, perhaps including the production of green hydrogen as well, and how to ensure energy security in this geopolitical turmoil by way of diversification. On bilateral terms, Korea is ready and willing to contribute to Bulgaria's energy transformation, and one of Korean companies active in Bulgaria has been a pioneer in solar energy production. And when opportunities arise, we would be eager to take part in enhancing nuclear power capacity as well as a green transition in Bulgaria. Beyond that, we must have the wisdom to share with each other. We Koreans believe that one can find the best teacher in your friend. As both Bulgaria and Korea are medium-sized countries, often situated at the crisscross of geopolitical tensions, what I would call energy diplomacy has become vital in our survival and prosperity. The war in Ukraine, for instance, has compelled both of us to diversify energy sources. And I'm impressed at the way Bulgaria has been handling and now is overcoming the crisis over the past 2 years. On the other hand, the trial and error of Korea's green transition might present a useful reference for Bulgaria to consider. And Bulgaria and Korea can also work together as such multilateral settings as UN and COP28 at Dubai. It's fortunate that this forum follows the Green Transition Forum held last week. That forum mainly addressed the issues of Bulgarian and European relevance. And as a sequel in terms of timing, this forum can extend beyond that and toward perhaps a global or cross-regional perspective. And I'm eager to listen to today's discussions, and based on that discussions, I think the Korean embassy here in Sofia and perhaps other embassies.
Energy is also security, and energy is also foreign policy. That's why, speaking of security and foreign policy, I would like to very warmly welcome Korea as already a regular participant in the NATO summits. And I would like very much to see one day Korea in NATO and maybe NATO in Korea. With this couple of words, I would like to wish all the best to this great opening conference, and we hope that this is the first but not the last among many of them.
We have a list of keynote speakers who will set the tone of discussions today, and I will kindly give the floor to them according to the list which you already have in the program. So it is my true pleasure to invite Dr. Dobrev, Mr. Dejan Dobrev. I don't know, but maybe you will have a doctoral as well, or will have. But most importantly, he's been many years the Member of Parliament, Minister of Economy and Energy, and he's extremely well suited to kick off the keynote remarks. So would you please come over to this mic?
Of course, thank you very much for giving me the floor. Actually, this is not the first event co-chaired by the Korean Embassy that I'm participating. I even think that I have participated in all of them, so thank you very much for inviting me. Energy is indeed really important issue in Bulgaria, especially nuclear energy, for which I'm supposed to talk. nuclear energy has been an issue in Bulgaria for the last, 40 years, something like that. Belene was started in 1981, so more than 40 years. Right now, it's probably the first time that we have a clear vision on what we want to do. You know that there are two decisions of Parliament in the last 12 months. One is that we have taken a decision to build AP1000 as the 7th unit of Kozloduy. And the second one is we have taken very recently a decision to sell the equipment of Belene, of the Belene project to the Ukrainian side. Our next step is to make sure that we have sufficient financing for AP1000 as 7th unit of Kozloduy. What I mean by that is that we should make sure the government and the finance minister do not drain the resources from the energy system. Right now there is enough funds for the equity participation in AP1000 as 7th unit of Kozloduy. But we should make sure, and the reason we have enough funds is that there were very high prices of electricity last year. And the energy companies, the state-owned energy companies, made significant, huge profits. So here we are. Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope I will have the possibility to further elaborate on my thesis in the next panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You will take the seat already. Okay. Because we have a few more speakers. Whatever you choose, it's a free country. Actually, this was an attempt at assuring the audience, both here in the conference room and outside the conference room, of areas where succession is very much needed. So you heard the voice of a former member of government. But as I said, we have the members of the current government who will actually give us the outlines of the policy to be followed by this government in the, I hope, longer term future. So I would invite Minister Julian Popov, who is the Minister of Environment, to offer his remarks to the audience.
Thank you, dear Elena, and ministers and ambassadors and friends and colleagues. I would like first to welcome very warmly Dr. Baev to Bulgaria. He told me that he's been already to my lovely place, Sozopol, but not to many other places, so we will hope that he'll see many, many other beautiful places around Bulgaria. Sozopol is certainly not one of the most beautiful ones because it's overbuilt. We are talking today about sustainable energy or sustaining energy transition. What is it exactly? And from point of view of kind of my tower, which is the environment and climate, I would like to say a few words and guesses what will happen probably with the Bulgarian energy system. It is very clearly going and following the path of decarbonization, something that we have been resisting for a very, very long time. And what is happening at the moment is not that it is forced by some Bulgarian political decision, it is forced in that direction by the market. And the market proved to be a very, very, very strong force. Of course, many people will say, well, carbon market is not market. I'm very happy to argue about that for a very long time, but I'm not supposed to do that because of time now. So market is pushing very, very fast it will happen with gas for a simple reason that if we start calculating the carbon emissions of gas along the whole path from extraction to final use, we will find out that carbon emissions of gas are as high as coal, there might be even higher. So my guess is, I'm not campaigning against gas or against anything, but just making a relatively educated guess that very soon, maybe in the next 5 or 8 years, we will see carbon prices that will put exactly the same pressure on gas that they're putting on coal at the moment. And if you don't want to trust me on that, you can ask any investor, somebody who would say, oh, I want very, very much to invest in gas and I don't want any public money for that. I mean, if you find me one of them, I will buy him a beer. So we're faced with that context, and the question is what we have to do. And I think what will happen is, and what is happening at the moment, there is an explosion of the easiest and the cheapest energy, which is solar. But it is very important for us in this decarbonization drive to find the technologies that can provide us the balance. And I'm not talking about this kind of frequency balance and this kind of very technical things, but we need balancing the variability of solar. And of course, we very much hope that wind will take off, will start blowing finally, not just in the skies, but in our energy system. I hope that very much that we'll cooperate with Korea on offshore wind and specifically floating offshore wind, because the Bulgarian sea is quite deep and we don't want to see lots of windmills on the Bulgarian beaches. We already destroyed them enough. But we will see quite a lot of energy storage capacities, and most importantly, I think, is the cross-border grid connections. And this is not just throwing a few cables across the border with Greece, but expanding the grid connectivity in our region, but also we have to think at a much, much larger scale. There have been serious discussions about grid connections across the Black Sea with Azerbaijan and connecting the offshore wind to Caspian Sea. At the moment, this discussion is going mainly between Azerbaijan and Romania. I would very much like to see Bulgaria part of this conversation. We have to keep an eye, if possible, take some part in the connections across the Mediterranean, Greece and Egypt, Greece and Israel, and so on, and continue to think about this HVDC connectivity and very, very long distances. I think this is the main direction that will provide us with long-term solutions. So just with these few notes, I would like to wish the conference today fruitful discussions, debate. I hope you will have many, many disagreements, because otherwise you'll be very bored with it. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Minister. And now we move on to a key minister, he keeps a key portfolio. And this is Minister Bogdan Bogdanov, the Minister of Economy and Industry, which should somehow bring together all the topics we shall be discussing today. Minister, to you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, ministers, representatives of the Parliament, dear organizers of this event, dear Ambassador Bai, it's really a great pleasure for me to be here today. I'm always excited to talk about this topic, not only because we saw it even last year. Energy, actually, and energy security is actually the enabler of the economic development. We saw how important it is to have the right resources at the right time, at the right cost. And here, Bulgaria showed in the last, let's say, years, that we are not only one of the biggest net exporters of energy in the region, but also we can provide a sustainable and predictable environment for the business. And when we have these difficult times, Bulgaria can stand strong behind the business and support them in these critical circumstances. This was one of the reasons why the Bulgarian industrial production last year, with the support of the government for the high energy prices, the Bulgarian industrial production has been the second fastest growing in the European Union. So energy transformation is a key factor for the economic development of a country. And here, again, I would like to stress upon the fact that Bulgaria stands strong and responsible to secure the resilient operation of our economy and of our business. But here we need to talk also about diversification, because the needs of the business are changing. The businesses are becoming more and more demanding to receive the right resources, to receive the right legal framework, so that they can be more efficient in implementing the specific measures in order to meet their decarbonization strategies. And here I think we as a government, but not only, we as a society need to be more efficient to support the businesses in that environment, because at the current situation we see the business to be really the active part in this transition. Yes, we can implement and we can give a lot of good suggestions, decisions, policies, but usually governments are slower than the business. So we need to be very much around the business to understand their needs and to implement the right measures, again, at the right cost. Decarbonization, however, it's seen by a lot of people as a challenge. It's seen as an obstacle that we need to overcome. But I would like to look at it from another perspective. Decarbonization is also an opportunity. It is an opportunity for innovation, it is an opportunity for investment, it is an opportunity for economic development. And here, Bulgaria, again, can provide a lot of opportunities, not only for the business, but also to the private, different types of private and government funding. Because Bulgaria has a strong engineering locally, we have a very good and well-established companies which are very active also in the field of renewable energy sources. And if we step upon this infrastructure that Bulgaria historically created, if we use our engineering, if we use our strategic location, we can really become a hub for development of strategic technologies for the future decarbonization strategy, not only of Europe, but also I truly believe we can be an active contributor and help our strategic partners to accomplish also their decarbonization strategies. We see a lot of opportunities for Bulgaria to become the European hub for development of energy storage systems from different types of technologies. We see Bulgaria with our strategic resources that we have as raw materials, again, as engineering, to become the hub for releasing not only new technologies, but also more efficient environmental monitoring systems. And we cannot accomplish that alone. We can only do that if we combine our efforts with our strategic partners, expertise that can be brought even from locations far away from us like Korea. We see that as a very strategic aspect in order to accomplish our ambitious goals. But again, we can only do that if we collaborate. And I'm very grateful that we have this event today, because this is the platform, again, that we need to discuss these ideas, but we need to be also very pragmatic to put that in terms of active measures that we can implement. And even tomorrow I have a conference call with a Korean company discussing some of the aspects relevant to the decarbonization strategy of our country and local manufacturing of specific critical components. And I would be very happy to share this energy that we have now in Bulgaria, this expertise that can be matched with the specific industrial capabilities, so that we, in the end of the day, we can really reach our ambitious goals. And this is not a choice. Again, this is a must, because we need to do that for our children. We need to do that for the resilient operations of our institutions. And it's now the time that we need to be really efficient in implementing these measures now. Thank you very much for having me today. And I would be very happy to continue that discussion and find opportunities for collaboration on an economic or other fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I would really like to wish you every success in your path forward. And now a great pleasure, both official and personal, to invite the Deputy Minister for Energy, Mr. Krasimir Nenov, who has a long-time friend, collaborator, and a great expert. So over to you.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you, Dr. Pasi. It's really a great honor to be part of such an esteemed group of participants in such a forum. And I also would like to thank the Embassy of Korea and personally the Ambassador, His Excellency Jongin Bey, for the invitation. After the introductory speech of Dr. Pasi, I can only echo what he said about the importance of energy as from the point of view that energy is also security, but it's also foreign policy. And probably to add a little bit to what Minister Yulian Popov and Minister Bogdanov mentioned, and prior to that, what Mr. Dobrev highlighted as priorities. I would be a little bit more specific about the priorities for the Ministry of Energy and what our biggest challenges are at the moment. So on the topics of regulatory aspects, I would say we need to progress and to make sure that we have a very robust, integrated climate energy plan that is updated and is in line with the latest views in terms of and priorities, both on in terms of decarbonization objectives, but also keeping the resilience of our energy system, which we currently have. Mr. Bogdanov highlighted the importance of and how successfully our energy system managed to handle the challenges of the past couple of years, where there were shortages of gas, but because of the energy mix that we have, the capacity mix and the energy mix, we managed to not only cover the needs of our domestic customers and industry, but also managed to cover the deficit in the region, and without having a negative impact on the power prices and ultimately on the economic growth. So integrated climate energy plan is one priority. The second priority is completing the work on the territorial just transition plans for the affected areas, namely the Stara Zagora region, Kyustendil, Pernik, where obviously there is a lot of work which will need to be done in terms of the transition. Next is the let's say, completion of the discussions with the European Commission on the recovery and resilience plan to address let's say, the aspects related both to reforms and investments, and we are working on forming a position that will address the, let's say, the need for an orderly transition in the regions, but also will enable Bulgaria to benefit from the Recovery and Resilience Fund. Meanwhile, we are also making progress, and we are on track on the fuel diversification of nuclear fuel diversification of unit number 5 in Kozloduy. There is progress in this front, and we expect that next year in 2024, during the plant outage of Unit 5 at Kozloduy, we will manage to do the first replacement of partial replacement of fuel that has been used so far from the new supplier from Westinghouse, Sweden. There is also work done on progressing the let's say the development of new build in nuclear, and there is already a front-end engineering and design contract signed. So this is another aspect that we are focusing on, and our colleagues at the nuclear plant are working on that. And then, of course, it's also very important not only to have diversified generation, but also to have the adequacy of the system, the flexibility, and of course the renewables. And in addition to the generation, we of course need to invest in the grids, in the digitalization of the grids, and also in strengthening our grids to enable the growth in renewables. So there is a very ambitious plan of the transmission system operator to invest in strengthening and digitalizing the grid. On interconnections, because this is something that Minister Popov touched upon, we already put in operation in the last days practically the new interconnection with Greece, which enables further and allows to have more flexibility between the Bulgarian and the Greek energy systems. And on the gas front, practically tomorrow there will be the groundbreaking of the expansion of our storage with a view to double its capacity, which is another important development on the gas front. And of course, I don't want to list the work that has been done historically successful, I would say, the commissioning of ICGB, which allowed the flow of gas from Azerbaijan, and the construction of the terminal for LNG in Alexandroupolis, which is a contribution to the diversification of both the sources and the routes of natural gas. So without going into further significant details, I will just mention here something that Mr. Dobrev touched upon, the mandate which the National Assembly gave to the Minister of Energy to engage in negotiations for the potential sale of the delivered equipment with for the Belene power plant. The work is progressing there as well. We have a very short time frame on which to deliver, but actually we are focused on that front as well. So there is a lot on the plate of the Ministry of Energy, but we are committed with the team of the Minister and all the staff of the Ministry and the companies, and also engaging with the sector to make sure that we deliver on all of these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Nenov. And now we move to a top-level representative of the Ministry of Innovation and Growth. And I'm really happy to give the floor to Professor Georgi Angelov, who is the Deputy Minister for Innovation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Dear colleagues, Your Excellencies, Ministers, Members of Parliament, guests, from point of view and on behalf of the Ministry of Innovation and Growth, we will present a brief list of activities related to the energy sector. We operate the instruments related to the Resilience and Recovery Plan, and with this regard, we are about to release a new call for the circular economy measures, which mainly are targeted to encouraging companies implement equipment and increase the efficiency of productions, decreasing the use of materials, also decreasing the wastes, and finally to decrease the carbon footprint. The total budget of this measure will be around 180 million level, or 90 million euro. Also, in mid of May, ended a call for renewable energy sources and local energy storage. And this was a call focused on small and medium enterprises. And the idea was to encourage the use and the implementation of renewable energy sources. With this call, applied 562 projects. Now the evaluation is underway. And also our Ministry of Innovation and Growth is responsible for a reform, again part of the Resilience and Recovery Plan, related to the increasing the potential and the implementation of hydrogen technologies, also the supplies of hydrogen, and with this aspect, our ministry has developed a national roadmap for the development of hydrogen technologies, which gives the vision and the steps of realizing this priority. And we have a kind of already pilot project that already received approval. It is for building a hydrogen valley in the area of Stara Zagora. The total budget is around 30 million euro. 8 million of them will be funded by our local program for R&D and innovations encouragement, and the rest are funding by the European Horizon funds and also some private funding. So our ministry is deeply engaged in, giving more opportunities for innovations and realizations in the energy sector, also in the hydrogen area, and also in the chips area, which are more or less related to the energy topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. We are now moving on to our panel work with panel one, and I would like to invite the participants in panel one. We already have Mr. Delian Dobrev, who now chairs the Energy Committee in Parliament. Mr. Milko Kovacev, who runs second, he will be joining us virtually. And I'm very happy to invite Dr. Bogomil Manchev to join us here in the panel. There he is. The chairperson of Bulgaro. And then another outstanding person and personality. I think we're all joining here together to hold the discussion. We also have Mr. Ivan Hinovsky, another stellar name in energy, policy and implementation and all sorts of problems and challenges we've had to cope with. While everybody's taking their seats, I'd like to use my privilege as a moderator to announce a future event of the Atlantic Club of Bulgaria, and it's the next Thursday on the 27th of July, when we will be hosting the US Ambassador, Kenneth Merton, at the Sheraton. So I invite you to register with the Atlantic Club for that event, which promises to be also, although a different nature, but still very interesting. Now, as I said, we are on to panel one, which has to deal with nuclear energy for sustainable development. Before proceeding to the real discussion, I really need to offer an apology to all panelists for not being able to deliver all their resumes, because that will take another maybe hour or so of our time. But I can assure you of one thing. We have brought here the best of the best. And when you come to just thinking of their experience in their fields, I think we shall be talking of 200, 250 years put together of experience in the energy field. So basically, as you see in the program, and as I mentioned, we shall be discussing now the role of nuclear energy. But I would like to throw a challenge now to our panelists, because just this morning, reviewing the media news, I came upon a communication from the Washington Post, which said that nuclear security risks are rising for the first time in a decade. And this is according to an annual index which was released Tuesday by the Nuclear Threat Initiative, which is a Washington-based watchdog nonprofit. So, gentlemen, is nuclear security as challenged, as jeopardized, and is it less about wealth and more about effort and attention? So, we shall follow the order here. Mr. Dobrev, maybe you would like to continue from where you ended.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that publication is for the danger of a nuclear war and not for the security of the nuclear energy sector.
Excellent. So just give us assurances in the opposite.
Sure, I believe that in the nuclear energy sector there are no new threats. It's been quite some time since the last event in Fukushima, and all the necessary measures for combating that threat has been taken lately. So all the new projects, all the projects worldwide, including AP1000, have been redesigned to take into consideration this possible event. So I don't think we need anything to worry about. And if you allow me to continue to in my opening remarks and be more specific, in my opinion, the most important thing for Kozloduy 7 to succeed is to secure the financing, because these are the projects with this is the main problem we had with developing nuclear projects in Bulgaria. They were started without securing initially the equity that was needed for them. This was the problem with Belene. If we had secured the financing for Belene back in 2004, 2005, maybe even 2009 or 2010, this project might have been completed by now. But we were faced in 2012 with increasing cost of this project and no financing. And after the financial crisis in 2009, it was impossible for the state to continue this project. Even more so given the fact that we did not have a strategic investor, and we were not able to find a strategic investor. So now we are starting a new nuclear initiative. Actually, it started in 2012, and it's been developing very well until now, because we have a licensed site, we have environmental impact assessment that is in effect already. We have signed in the last couple of months front-end engineering and design contract, which would give us more information on how much this would cost, what would be the design, and so on. Parameters that we would need to take the final investment decision, and that would happen by the beginning of next year. But I want to be very clear here that if we want to build Kozloduy 7, we need to make sure that there is equity secured for this project. The necessary equity is in the energy system now, but I'm afraid that if the finance minister keeps draining the energy companies, keeps distributing dividends to the state and spending the money for other purposes, we might end up in a situation where we do not have enough funds for the equity that is necessary. In addition to that, after we secure the necessary equity, we need to move very quickly, because we want to be the first country in Europe to build AP1000. You know that there are contracts for 6 blocks, actually 3 already signed and 3 planned in Poland, and there are plans for 9 reactors in Ukraine. And other countries as well, following the example of Poland and Ukraine. But the Bulgarian project for Kozloduy 7 is the most advanced. And if we manage to be the first country in Europe to build AP1000, this means that we will have the maximum percentage of local content or equipment built here in Bulgaria. We need to maximize this competitive advantage that we have compared to other countries, so we should move quickly forward. I'm ready to answer any questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dobrev. Now we have someone joining us virtually online, and I do hope we have already, yeah, I can see him. This is Mr. Milko Kovacev, who is a long-time expert in the area of atomic energy, of nuclear energy. He's worked actually as an expert in the International Atomic Energy Agency. He also was a Minister of Energy in a previous government and has never ceased working in that area. So without further ado, Milko, over to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Elena, and I'm sorry to look at you from the top. I didn't mean that one, but that's the organization. So thank you for the opportunity, Your Excellencies. Just to begin answering your question, Elena, first, I think we need to clarify that there is always some issues around nuclear which are lost in translation. When we talk about security, we mean physical security in nuclear. When we talk about safety of installation, we talk safety. And in many languages, not in Bulgarian, but in many languages, there is just one word between security and safety. And experts are making a very clear difference between these two terms. Second thing, I do support Mr. Dobrev that the publication is clearly related to the war in Ukraine. And let me remind you that last year we have seen how energy can be aggressively used for as weapon. We have seen how gas was used as weapon. So it's not surprising that the initiatives, which are long-standing initiatives in the world, following the non-proliferation treaty provisions, are looking at the nuclear threat from a war point of view. But we are talking here about civil nuclear power plants and civil application of nuclear. And by the way, this morning I was looking at our balance currently, and we see that nuclear has been a very important contribution to Bulgarian energy sector for years. In 1974, when the first unit was put in operation, this was some of the let's say logical developments in the sector of putting low carbon sources, because our sector has been developed initially on hydro, local resources, which are very important, and we have very well good use of our hydro resources currently. And then nuclear was added. So the element of decarbonization, even not defined as policy at that time, has been a long-lasting feature of Bulgarian energy sector. But at that time, it was much more energy security, because hydro, renewables, and nuclear are local sources. And we see that today, in addition to energy security, which was proven last year how important it is for sustaining economic development, and also as adequate or acceptable prices of electricity, nuclear has been always a big contributor to that. In addition, today, as it was said already, it's not a choice of do we want to decarbonize, do we want to recognize climate. It is a must. We see on a daily basis the impact. And looking at our balance today, with 67 low carbon electricity produced in the system, renewables are very important, and they have 20% contribution to that balance. The rest is nuclear and hydro, but mainly nuclear, with the two operating units currently. So nuclear, from a sustainable point of view, is a very concentrated form of energy, with a very low land use, water use, no air pollution, and matches all, I will say, and I know that there are arguments against, but all ESG criteria today. Very frequently, the management of waste is an issue which people believe are kicking out nuclear from the group of sustainable sources. That's not the case, and there are proven ways of managing, and I believe Bulgaria, in addition to the actions taken and described earlier with new technologies, with diversifying the fuel supplies, needs to take measures to interrupt the repatriation of fuel back to Russia, because we have technologies, and we need to address those technologies and to prove that nuclear is sustainable on the ground of Bulgaria. And it is possible. Countries in similar, let's say, size and use of energy, like Finland, have proven that one with the deep geological disposal in operation already in this country. And last point to make, I appreciate the view that financing is very important. And certainly, if we look at nuclear projects today, many people believe that they are expensive. That's, again, something that we need to argue for, because the least cost source currently in the Bulgarian energy sector is Kozloduy nuclear power plant. As any new nuclear power plant, a new plant will be more expensive. But all the low carbon sources are very highly capital intensive, and this capital intensity requires proper access to finance. Currently, after retiring from the International Atomic Energy Agency, I have been invited to an initiative of creating International Bank for Nuclear Infrastructure. And this bank is focused on really solving that gap in financing nuclear projects from uranium mining to decommissioning with support to new builds and new technologies. We see as well how important it is in thinking about replacement of coal, which is obviously kicked out from the equation more and more, to use the infrastructure at these coal sites and build new technologies like small modular reactors. I don't see this debate in Bulgaria, but most probably it is coming already. With these few words, I thank you again for the invitation and the time given to me to speak. Thanks.
Thank you, Milko. Thank you so much. I think you rightly pointed out the nuanced difference between nuclear security and nuclear safety, but unfortunately we will more and more talk of both, especially given the events in Ukraine. Actually, recent years have witnessed a true renaissance in nuclear energy, and I think that this panel is so well equipped of arguing in favor of this nuclear renaissance. So it is my great pleasure to give the floor to Dr. Manchev, who is the chairperson of Bulgaro, but this is one of many other capacities that he holds. Most importantly, he's an old hand at Kozloduy, at our real beginning of nuclear energy of Bulgaria. And one more important thing I want to mention, Dr. Manchev, this is your position as chairperson of Bulgaro, of course, but also the role of Bulgaro itself, because it aims to inform the public, and I think we owe the public better information and more knowledge about this rather complicated topic. So please go ahead and argue your thesis.
Благодаря. Аз първо искам да се извиня за публиката, на всички хора, че аз ще говоря на български, за да бъда по-ясно чуваем. Ще обърна кратко внимание на това, което е накарало човечеството да се обърне към няколкото вида енергии, които са чисти и чрез които да се направи микс, за да достигнем декарбонизацията поне до 50-та година. Виждам, че на някои държави това е къс срок и преместиха техните си планове до 60-та година. Но гледам, че най-големите държави като САЩ, Франция, UK, Швеция, Нидерландия, Китай направиха много екстензивни програми, които бяха одобрени от техните парламенти и правителства да правят огромни количества мощности ядрени на своите територии до 50-та година. И ние, аз като председател на Булгаро и на неправителствена организация, която е проядрена, смятаме, че България трябва да се развива в тази посока, като базата да бъде ядрена, а цялата настройка да бъде от всичките видове ВЕИ-та, които ние познаваме, като в България основно те са вятър и слънце. Не изключваме по никакъв начин на използването на природния газ в бъдеще, като има изискване той да бъде миксиран с определен процент водород. Ние като Булгаро приветстваме стартирането на 7-ми блок, но смятаме, че правителството трябва да положи усилия и да възложи на Уестингхаус да прави 2 блока, 7 и 8 блок, тъй като се нуждаем от заместване на 5 и 6 енергоблок, които ще завършат своя жизнен цикъл 47 година и 51. И площадка Белене, която е ядрена площадка, правителството трябва да възложи на някои от големите компании. Знаем, че има такива разговори с Електриците де Франс, да направят анализ на тази площадка и да се стартира проект, който е със западна технология, от които са Франция, САЩ, Южна Корея, могат да предложат реактори, с които са по мощност около 1000 или 1200 мегавата, тъй като големите реактори от 1400 мегавата, които са в Абу Даби или които са в корейците правят до сега, но те имат вече 1000 мегаватов реактор или 1650 мегаватов реактор, са големи като единични мощности за нашата енергийна система. И от гледна точка на системна надежност не е редно да правим подобни неща. Но без големи въртящи механизми ние не можем да си позволим лукса да достигнем желаните 12, 13 или колко хиляди мегавата солари до 53-та година, 7-8 хиляди или 4 до 7 хиляди мегавата вятър, който да бъде над територията на България и в екваторията на Черно море да бъдат инсталирани такива ветрогенератори. Също така да се изградат огромни мощности. Те могат да бъдат множество малки, но да достигнат до 5000 мегавата електролизерни станции, с които да произвеждат водород, защото това е един от начините чисто пазарно хората, които произвеждат електроенергия от вятър и слънце, да могат да депонират своите енергии във вид на първоизточник, наречен водород, който да бъде ползван от транспорта, тъй като най-големия въпрос, който ние за сега сме започнали да го решаваме, не е енергетиката. Енергетиката ще я декарбонизираме, ще махнем въглища, ще слагаме ядрена, ще се строиме слънце и така нататък, но колите, с които ние си движиме всеки ден, те харчат между 60 до 100 милиона мегаватт часа годишно във вид на нафта, бензин, това, което гориме, и трябва да го заменим с огромното количество автомобили, да бъдат електроавтомобили и поне 30% да горят водород. А това са огромни количества водород, които ние трябва да произведеме. Нашето виждане като Булатом е, че България като консумация до 50-та година трябва да запази сегашната консумация от 35 до 37 милиона мегаватт часа, но трябва много рязко да се подобри енергийната ефективност с 1 мегаватт час да произвеждаме 2-2,5 пъти повече продукт от днес, за да бъдем ефективни, а да произведеме 2 пъти повече електроенергия, като този излишък от електроенергия извън консумацията на хората, с него да произвеждаме водород, който да го депонираме в складови стопанства, тъй като България синхронизира цялата си нормативна уредба как да се произвежда, съхранява и транспортира водород. Виждам господин Малинов, знам, че те правят един анализ на техната си газопреносна мрежа, какви проценти и как да я оплътнат, така че вътре да могат да се смесват с водород, защото това е изискване след 50-та година въобще да гориме природен газ по изискване на Европейската общност, ние сме се съгласили с това нещо. Всеки мегаватт час, който го произвеждаме като електроенергия, той трябва да може да излъчва под 200 кг въглероден диоксид, тогава той се счита за чист. Ядрената енергетика се явява основен стълб за България. Ние продължаваме да смятаме и ще апелираме и към Комисията по енергетика, и към правителството да водим такива разговори с министра на енергетиката, естествено, да. А планирането ще го предлагаме, но трябва да се планира от парламент и правителство, как да се развият в рамките на 30 години 4 ядрени блока на двете площадки. Хубаво, че поне едната са започнали да го правят, това има предвид 7 блок, с желанието да разшириме 2 ядрени блока да правим. Много е труден процес с правенето на големи ядрени мощности заради финансовата част. Много пари се изискват първоначално и този така наречен финансов капитал, да го наречеме, трудно се синдикира. Държавата трябва да даде големи банкови гаранции или да намери сериозни стратегически инвеститори, които да добият дори до 70% държавата да има контролен пакет, поне 30%, за да може тези мощности в крайна сметка да вършат работа на българското население и на региона, а не да вършим работа на някой друг. Не е редно да го правим по този начин. С всичките съпътстващи проблеми, които има ядрената енергетика, затова са колегите експерти, такива като мен и много други, как да решаваме въпроса с съхранение на ниско, средни и високо активни отпадъци, как да съхраняваме отработеното гориво, тъй като отработеното гориво доста години вече не е отпадък, а е суровина. И по Евроатом програмата ние трябва да го пазим и да си го съхраняваме на територията на Европейската общност, така може да си пазиме тази суровина, защото вече започнаха да се появяват четвърто поколение реактори, които това гориво е за тях гориво. И ние не има нужда да си даваме горивото някъде, да ни го на всичко отгоре и плащаме, за да ни го вземат. Енергийната сигурност през призмата на ядрената енергетика има два аспекта. Тук гледам, че го засегнаха като security. Физическата защита е различна от технологичната защита и грамотността на хората, които управляват ядрената централа. Грамотността на хората, що го там ще го докараме с обучение, тъй като висшето образование и въобще държавата е длъжник тази индустрия, защото все по-малко и по-малко студенти се обучават в няколкото университета и това почва да става дефицит. Докато физическата защита, тя е на национално ниво и има различни съвети по национална сигурност към президента, към правителството. Има различни военни установки, които могат да запазят атомна централа от падане на голям търговски самолет, защото той е не по-малко опасен от каквато и да било ракета, която да падне върху него. Защото когато има война, ти ще предвидиш и ще извадиш горивото, ще го сложиш в басейните до това, ще падне бомбата и ще направи разпръскване на гориво и локално ще има замърсяване. Но когато работи централната на 100% мощност и падне самолета, се получава абсолютна трагедия. Тези в Фукушима и в Чернобил ще ни се видят цвете, защото тогава се получава истински ядрен взрив. Новите поколения реактори са го предвидили и издържат техните оболочки, които ги защитават, издържат да пада голям търговски самолет, не достига до реактора, не се получава разрушаване целостта на първи контур, което е изключително важно и отговаря. Това е ново изискване от 15 на години, даже малко повече, 20 преди Фукушима още е изискване, което се наложи. Примерно един от проблемите на Синоп в Турция, когато започнаха да правят японците централата, те не отговаряха на тази част. И отначало бюджета на проекта им беше 16 милиарда за 4 блока по 1100 мегавата. Като си направиха наново пресметна и си подобриха конструкцията, стана 26 милиарда. За да може да издържа на голям търговски самолет, да падайки върху него, да не достигне до ядрена авария. Но това е технически решим въпрос. Има съвременните нови поколения, които ги имат и Франция, и САЩ, които произвеждат производители на ядрени съоръжения. Техните ядрени инсталации участват много успешно в регулиране на системата, защото горивото, което произвеждат новото гориво, позволява до много голяма дълбочина от мощността на тези ядрени инсталации, до 70% от тяхната мощ. Това е огромно. Два реактора, примерно на Белене и два реактора на Козлодуй, това са 2000-3000 мегавата. Ние нямаме толкова павеци. Ние няма да направим още един, ще са 2000 мегавата. Те по този начин ще регулират системата. Павеците ще бъдат големи акумулатори на енергия. Трябва да направим много депа за водород задължително, като едно от най-сериозните депа е тръбата на Българгаз Транс, защото там може да сложим много голямо количество водород, стига да не го взривим, естествено да не изтича от някъде. Това трябва да направим. Така че имаме много сериозна задача като държава. Държавата е поела ангажиментите си, имаме достатъчно отговорни ръководители на всички нива, които поне да ни чуят, за да започне да развитието, защото един такъв проект като ядрена енергетика, примерно както е започнал седми блок, аз искрено се надявам колегите от Westinghouse да успеят за 10 години да пуснат седми блок в работа. Но имам доста голяма доза съмнение. Регулаторната рамка е много тромава и евростандарта е малко различен от този, който NRC прилага в Щатите и ние няма как да си променим регулаторната рамка. Тя е такава, каквато е. Тя е съгласувана с регулатора на САЩ. Така че трябва да подобряваме проекта, който да отговаря на нашата нормативна уредба. Смятам, че многото специалисти, които притежава България, те може би за правене на нова мощност не са достатъчни, но за лицензиране един проект са достатъчни и обикновено такъв проект се лицензира между 3 и 5 години. Надявам се ние да се справим за 3 години. След като видим идейния проект, как те са го разработили колегите от Westinghouse, те са грамотна компания, те знаят по-добре, те знаят, че това ги очаква и това трябва да го свършиме. Ние ще бъдем от другата страна, на страната на собственика, т.е. на държавата си, за да защитим държавата си и да влезем в добра колаборация с инвеститор, т.е. с доставчика на технология, защото инвеститор, в крайна сметка, ще бъде наша държава. Също така се надявам в скоро време, ако държавата сключи договор с EDF да направят предпроектното проучване за площадка Белене, да се вземе решение дали ще се обяви международен търг за доставка на технология Франция и Южна Корея, който може да прави САЩ, естествено, и да изберем, както се казва, най-добрия. Това е решението за държавата, за да може да стигнем до 1953 година около 1 милион автомобила да се движат на електроенергия и водород от 4 милиона, които съществуват на нашата територия, да имаме около 20% в тръбопроводите с природния газ смесен с водород и да сме 2,5 пъти по-енергийно ефективни, за да живеем по-добре. Благодаря ви.
Thank you, Dr. Manchev. We proceed on with those decades of experience that I promised you, and everybody holds several of these. So now I move on to Dr. Ivan Hinovsky, who has his own 50 years of experience in that particular sphere. What I would like to briefly mention about him, because it's very long indeed as a resume, he is the chairman of the Bulgarian Energy and Mining Forum, and he is the director of the energy consulting company Pro Eco Energia, which obviously works in that area. So, Dr. Hinovsky, over to you with your PowerPoint presentation.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Bey, thank you very much for the invitation to take part in this very interesting conference. Dear colleagues, having in mind that major part of the participants are Bulgarian, I will continue my presentation in Bulgarian. Anyway, all slides are in English, so you can follow the text in the conference. The topic of my presentation, which will be very short, will be the energy development of Bulgarian time for actions. This is very important to mention because the previous title was from statements to actions. So this is, I just want to underline that it is high time to start the real actions in the Bulgarian energy sector. Short about the content. I will speak about actual policies in force, facts and figures about Bulgarian energy sectors, Bulgarian energy case update status and conclusions, conclusions from the Bulgarian power case update, important actions to be undertaken, Bulgarian Energy Mining Forum forecast for energy mixing in the grid towards 2050, and after that, short summary. I will not... Имате ли такъв... Извинете, имате микрофон да мога да гледам, че тук не мога да виждам какво показвам. Да. Благодаря ви. Много интересно е да обърна внимание на актуалните политики, които са в сила в момента, също и някакви факти относно българския енергиен сектор. Първо, форсираното прилагане на зелената енергия, политиките свързани с това, имат редица последствия, част от тях, които са негативни. Аз изреждам някои от тях. Първият факт, който е много тревожен, това е заявленията за присъединяване на повече от 40 000 мегавата ВЕИ към мрежата е един много тревожен факт, който изиска решения и за голяма жалост до момента всички решения са отлагани във времето. Второто по последствие дебаланса в мрежата между относно загубата на въртящия естество. Богомил Манчев спомена това и възможността за първично и вторично регулиране, което е факт вследствие на големи процент ВЕИ мощности, създава проблеми. В момента в България най-тревожното е, че част от функциите на въртящия резерв са изместени в съседни електрически мрежи, т.е. това е един вид загуба на енергийна сигурност. Дано е временно решение. Планираното намаляване на емисиите на CO2 с около 40% води, вероятно, ще повлече след себе си до процеса на спиране на топлоелектрически централи поради икономически причини в мините. И последното, което е характерно за днешния период от време, това е ние в момента не усещаме, но има редица смущения в мрежата, които са породени от, бих казал, конфликти в кавички между базовото производство на електроенергия, АЕЦ и ТЕЦове и ВЕИ-тата. Не искам да давам факти, защото те са повече инженерна информация, какво се е случвало, защото това би трябвало да в най-скоро време да намери свое решение. Също така, нови регулаторни механизми трябва да бъдат внедрени за защита на базовата енергия, на икономика на базовите производители, защото те се притискат в момента от ВЕИ-тата, намаляват своето производство и губят ликвидност. Това е много сериозен въпрос, говорейки за последна точка ново ядрено строителство. Преди да започнем новите ядрени централи, трябва да знаем какво правиме, как съвместяваме, как работят ВЕИ и базови мощности, хипотези, различно регулиране. Само ще мина през тази фигура. Това е графика на електрическото производство за 2021, което се вижда много добре. Виждате каква е в линията, в тази линия, как е поинтера? Моля? Горното копче. Не се показва. Не е значение, окей. Виждате базовата мощност, виждате тези 2000 мегавата, които се очаква на загуба на базов товар след спирането на топлоелектрическите централи един ден. Не казваме кога. Това е потенциала за бъдещото влизане в графика, в товаровия график на системата на атомни централи. Така, това е характеристика относно ефективността на работа на различните генериращи мощности. Искам само да й покажа ядрената, една инвестиция в ядрена, каква ефективност има на изплащане на инвестицията в сравнение с ВЕИ-та. Това са часовете, средната часово производство по източник за 2021 година мегават часа за час работа. Виждате атомата, която е последната. Така, не се показва, сега не мога да ви разбера защо не се показва. Остана тук. Как е по-интернет? Не работи. Сега работи. Така. Да. Ставаше дума за този диапазон, виждате го тук от тази страна. Това е бъдещият дефицит на базова мощност след спирането на топлоелектрическите централи. Това е мястото, където новите ядрени мощности трябва да влезат в експлоатация. Така, затова казах високата икономическа ефективност на изграждането на работата на ядрени централи, които за лев инвестиран в инсталацията произвеждат над 90% повече от една инвестиция в ВЕИ като часово производство. Така, заключенията от българската, състоянието на българската енергетика. Редица системни причини за нова ядрена мощност, както казах преди и както се видя от предните слайдове. Най-ниската маргинална цена на ядреното производство, вече казахме, база данни на КЕВР, също инвестиционната агенция Лазар. Най-висок капацитет на мощност, 1 гигават мощност ядрена генерация е равен на 2 гигавата в ядрена и 3 до 4 гигавата в възобновяеми. Експлоатационните разходи на един изплатен ядрен проект, защото спекулира се много често и медии и специалисти казват, ядрената енергия е най-евтина. Не, тя не е най-евтина, тя е най-евтина наистина сумарно, но има един период на изплащане на инвестициите, в който тя не е евтина. Но след този период следва най-основното предимство на ядрената енергетика. Да. В момента Спирам се на последната част от слайда, защото той е най-интересен. В момента има нови условия и стимули за развитие на ядрена енергетика в България. Първото, което вече казах, неизбежното спиране на ТЕЦ-ове някога, което предстои, не казваме 300, 35, 40, то предстои, за този период ядрен трябва да се подготви. Втори извод е заявен интерес за купуване на електроенергия, на базова електроенергия по дългосрочни договори от външни електрически системи, от съседни страни. И това е ресурса за създаване на подходящ финансов модел. Върху това трябва да се спре местното правителство, като води преговори за изграждането на нова ядрена мощност. И другото, което е в редица разговори, включително и на наши конференции, редица големи компании и също страни около България, съседни страни, заявяват интерес към купуване на дялове в едно такова бъдещо акционерно дружество. Това е другия стимул за развитие, за изграждането на нови ядрени мощности. Сега, тук съм разписал според нашето сдружение, ние сме NGO, което много често критикува държавни решения. Тук обаче съм се пострадал да направя балансирано и то е свързано. Няколко точки са. Важните действия, които трябва да бъдат предприети 2022-2023 година. Първото е публично обсъждане и приемане на тази прословута най-накрая национална енергийна стратегия. Второто е приемане на националната стратегия за радиоактивни отпадъци и от ядрено. Тя е готова, от месеци стои някъде, обсъжда се. Без това нещо ние не можем да направим една крачка напред. Третото е успешното за завършване на процеса на диверсификация на ядреното гориво, беше казано, разработване на стратегия за модернизация на блокове 5 и 6 от гледна точка на потенциалната замяна на парогенераторите на блок 6 и много сериозен въпрос, той е свързан с сделката с Украйна. Това, което ще кажа в момента, звучи леко критично към досегашните действия в ядрената енергетика. Да се анонсира процедура на срещи и обсъждане на меморандуми, MOU-та с различни доставчици на оборудване, това, което правят всички, на 3+ технологии. Фраматом, Уестингхаус, Корейската хидро и ядрена компания CNNC и други. Защото това така постъпи Полша. Полша покани всички, Чехия покани всички компании, водиха разговори, оцениха предимствата. Защото в тези разговори не само технология се обсъжда, обсъждат също финансови възможности. Участие на всеки един от страните в този процес. За нас е особено важно, тъй като по това можем да си изберем най-доброто. Не казвам, че Уестингхаус не е най-доброто, защото тя е една много модерна технология, но това беше правилният подход, който трябваше преди 2 години 3 да бъде приложен. Другото, което искам да кажа, време е сега да се процедира с следващата стъпка по изграждането на новата ядрена мощност в АЕЦ „Козлодуй“, т.е. да се премине от решение по принцип към решение по същество. Т.е. старт на процедурата за проектиране и Safety Analysis Report на блок 7. Да видим как изглежда. Също така трябва да се започне с подготовка на дейностите за изграждането на 8 блок. Много лесно се казва 7 и 8 блок, обаче това не е съвсем така, защото ОВОС е само за 7 блок. Ние трябва да видим какви са ограниченията за нов 8 блок. Да, и площадка и не само това. И да бъде решен конфликта между базовото производство на електроенергия и ВЕИ-тата. Това, което казах, на балансиращия пазар. В момента много често се случва атомната централа АЕЦ „Козлодуй“ да плаща глоби за небаланси да участие на балансиращия пазар, който влошава изключително тежко неговото икономическо състояние. Дни наред плащат, за да им вземат енергията. С това аз ще ви, на този слайд е показано кратко нашата визия за баланса, за бъдещият енергийен и мощен баланс на страната към 2050 година, в който се вижда, обръща внимание само на това, 44 до 46% ядрена и ВЕИ-та 37 до 39% на базата на нашата прогноза за развитие. Има биомаса, биогорива и водород. Добре, това не е. Има waste to energy също е биомаса, отпадъци. Така, summary, в заключение.
There has been a little argument about the share of biomass between the two experts. What the percentage
защото има вече няколко инсталации, за съжаление, вместо да сечеме болната гора и да гориме, сечеме всичко.
Това не е гора. Значи, биомасата не е гора.
Знам. РДФ има ли в София горене?
Има РДФ също, има РДФ.
Не, има ли горене? Не. Провалиха ли проекта? Провалиха го.
Защото има горене, затова.
Не, провалиха проекта заради, да не кажа за какво, но го провалиха.
Сега дейностите, две думи заключението, защото е важно да се знае. Дейностите по бъдещото използване на оборудването за ВВР-1000 за нова мощност, както всички разбрахме и виждаме на къде отиват нещата, са блокирани от последните геополитическа обстановка в света. Не може да се работи с Росатом, за съжаление. Вторият важен извод е, че в България съществува публичен консенсус относно бъдещото използване на ядрена енергия, един много важен фактор за нейното развитие. Политиката на удължаване на ресурса на 5 и 6 блок в АЕС трябва да бъдат най-висок приоритет и те са. Все пак аз го подчертавам. Козлодуй 7 блок е преди вторият майлстон, т.е. преди съществената процедура и тя трябва да бъде взето решението за започване незабавно. Няма ограничение, друг важен извод, няма ограничение по приложение на налични на пазара други доказани ядрени технологии, като AP1000, френския EPR 1200, APR 1600 на Корея, КАП 1600 на Китай, малки модулни реактори и други, за изграждането на площадките, двете площадки в България. Но настояваме и смятаме, че това е най-правилният път. Трябва да се стартира, трябва да се работи на базата на МОЮ-та, които трябва да бъдат подписани и да бъдат обсъждани тези проекти на срещи между представители на България и доставчиците. С това приключвам, защото това са основните изводи. Благодаря за вниманието. Малко, може би, прескочих времето.
The important thing is to have, Dr. Hinovsky was worried about having gone longer, a little bit longer, but as you've seen, I'm a very patient moderator because I think it's very important to hear the information everybody has to say. And we're not that bad with time, Ambassador, I think. So we shall make it up for a few more minutes. That actually brings us to the end of this panel. I would like to thank the panelists. Благодаря на панелистите на този панел. And we shall now proceed to panel number 2.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you. We have somebody joining us, and this is a top level, a high level official joining us from Korea. Online, unfortunately, it's a long flight to come just for one day of a conference. But I would like to invite, in the meantime, the other participants on this panel. And I'm particularly happy to invite Mr. Vladimir Malinov, who is the executive director of Bulgar-Transgas. He is this is a key state agency, a key state company, and we're really privileged and happy to have him participate in panel number 2. He actually is a member of the board of directors of Gas Trade as well, which is the project company which develops the Alexandroupolis LNG terminal, as well as a member of the board of the European network of transmission system operators for gas. So we have gas here, and we very much look forward to hearing about what happens.
Hydrogen.
And hydrogen as well. Right, right. And then another very special person on this panel, and I cannot help a little bit of a personal bias because Dr. Ivanov and I, we served in parliament and in international parliamentary bodies for many, many years again. But then he was rightfully recruited to lead the state regulator, the Energy and Water Regulatory Commission, which is a key agency, again, very much in the eye of the storm because of prices and how they are negotiated. But we shall rather talk about regulations, not about prices. And I'm very happy that you could make it here with us, Dr. Ivanov. Finally, a lady. I was worried that I'm here to kind of a little bit redress the gender balance in this conference. So I'm so very happy indeed to bid welcome to Ms. Veneta Tsvetkova, who is the Director of Energy Projects and International Cooperation at the Ministry of Energy. So we shall get another broader perspective, not only of domestic developments, but how we actually engage with our partners and allies in the energy field. Without further ado, I would suggest that we first get the very important internet connection with Korea, and I'm very happy to introduce Mr. Choi Yong-chul, who is the head of Global Energy Cooperation Center at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. So thank you so very much for joining us, Director, and over to you now to kick it off in the second panel. I didn't mention that the second panel deals with opportunities and challenges for energy security and diversification.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Very well.
Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Yong-chul Choi. I'm head of Global Energy Cooperation Center of Korean Foreign Ministry. I'm honored to be here, your speaker today. My topic is Korea energy security and policy. Next. Korea has a strong economy with a GDP of $1,673 billion and ranked 13 globally, but it heavily relies on energy import, accounting for almost 95% of its overseas energy need. In last year, energy expenditure reached a record high of $216 billion due to soaring energy prices. This highlights the need to address energy security and diversify energy source. Next. And Korea is the 8th largest energy consumer worldwide, heavily rely on foreign source for its energy need. It holds a significant position in the global energy market as the 3rd largest energy importer and 4th largest coal and oil importer. This heavily rely on overseas energy make Korea vulnerable to shift in global supply and demand as well as fluctuation in energy price. Last year, Korea energy mix include oil around 37%, coal 25%, LNG around 20% nuclear power, around 12% renewable energy, around 5%. We will focus on cleaner and renewable energy options. Energy consumption by sector show that the industrial sector accounts for over 60% of the total, mainly due to Korea's significant presence in heavy industry. Transport and 17%, residential 11%, and commercial public together 11%. Implementing energy efficient and practice and target policy are vital for sustainability and reduce energy demand. The power generation sector in Korea consists of coal around 34%, LNG 29%, and nuclear power around 27%. Renewable energy is around 7%. And to reduce green energy power emission, and Korea needs to diverse energy portfolio with cleaner and renewable source. As I present, nuclear power provides more than 27% of Korea's total electricity supply. Korea has the fifth largest capacity of a nuclear reactor in the world, follow US, China, France, and Russia. Korea crude oil importer and last year reached 138 million tons, highlighting significant reliance on oil. Diversifying import source is essential with a decreasing in dependency on Middle East from 73% in 2016 and to 61% in last year. Last year, Korea's LNG import reached 46 million tons, marking a significant rise from 33 billion tons in 2016. This reflects Korea's increasing import volume of LNG and effort to diversify its dependency, including import from countries like the United States. Previously relying on the Middle East and South Asia for LNG import, and Korea has now diversified LNG source, demonstrate a strategic shift in its energy supply approach, aiming to reduce dependency on specific region and ensure a more secure and diversified energy supplies. Last year, Korea imported 117 million tons of bituminous coal from various countries. To prioritize sustainability and fight climate change, Korea aimed to gradually reduce and stabilize overseas coal import. So far, I have presented the overview of Korea's energy status and strategies for ensuring energy security. Now, Korea policy. Korea's new government has a vision for energy policy. 30% and nuclear power generation by 2030, fossil fuel reliance down to 60%, and doubling energy-related startup and 5,000. This shows dedication to sustainable energy practice, innovation, and economic growth. Korea holds a significant position in the global electric vehicle and battery market, with 32% market share in 2021. Also, Korea car maker in the global electric vehicle market share is just 3.6% in fourth quarter in 2022. It shows that China dominates the electric vehicle market with more than 60% globally last year. Korea heavily depends on China for importing various minerals, especially with dependency exceeding 19% of magnesium, aluminum cable, and magnesium scrap. Critical mineral dependency on China in Korea is very high too. with lithium hydroxide at 84%, cobalt 81%, graphite 90%. Diversifying import source critical mineral is crucial to enhancing resilience and mitigating risk, especially for critical mineral use in EV battery production. China plays a significant role in global mineral processing. As you can see in this slide, the world heavily relies on Chinese processing for over 60% of essential minerals such as magnesium, cobalt, graphite, lithium, and nickel. China is handling substantial share of mineral worldwide, diversifying processing capability and establishing resilient supply chain, especially for EV battery production, is essential for Korean companies. Recently, and Korea actively participate in mineral security partnership and a global initiative announced by United States last year June. 13 countries joined in this initiative in this critical mineral alliance, aiming to strengthen critical mineral supply chain. Furthermore, Korea signed an MOU on critical mineral with Canada and Western Australia this year, reinforcing effort to secure key mineral supply. Globally, global focus on combating inflation and promoting green initiative led to Inflation Reduction Act in the United States. The Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, is called IRA, and offers various credits aimed at furthering clean energy cost recovery, carbon capture, alternative fuel, EV charging infrastructure, clean hydrogen, renewable energy, and so on. It gives incentive on clean energy adoption, environmentally and friendly transportation. One of the key aspects of this act is establishment of tax credit of $7,500 for individual purchasing new electric vehicle. Korea battery company are interested in this attractive incentive. Korea's presence as a global leader in EV battery supply chain is growing, with investment from its largest battery company in North America. Over the past 3 years, battery maker and automaker have announced plans for a total of 11 joint battery factories worth billions of dollars in the North American region, with Korean battery company involved in 9 of 11 factories. The Inflation Reduction Act and U.S. government support accelerate this trend, reducing dependency on Chinese suppliers. Also, Korea is next. Also, Korea is re-evaluating its decision to sell overseas mines to ensure a reliable mineral supply chain. This reflects its commitment to maintaining resilient mineral supply for industry, economic, and activity. So far, I have presented an overview of Korea's energy security and its effort to diversify critical mineral and Korean investment in North America. Korea actively transitioned to clean energy, particularly hydrogen, and hosting international conference on hydrogen to share experience and innovative solution among nations. The Global Energy Cooperation Center under Korean Foreign Ministry established in 2012 to support Korean cooperation in expanding their global energy businesses. To the best of my knowledge, and Korean company in line with global trends are seeking to collaborate with Bulgarian company and the government. In the near future, and Korean company are eager to establish a recycling battery business with a European company. And also, Korean company has a strong interest in venture-related hydrogen and bioenergy derived from biomass. This is the end of my presentation, and thank you for your attention, and I look forward to discussing further in a later session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Choi. And now we move on to Mr. Vladimir Malinov, who is the, as I said, the Executive Director of Bulgar Transgas. So, floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Ambassador Poptudorova. Thanks for the audience. Thanks to the organizers for having that honor to be present on that event. And but at the same time, I try to be very quick, but also precise in the messages I would like to share with you and to deliver. Okay, when we are talking about energy security, of course, it's from our utmost importance. Not just for the well-being of the society, but also for the good development of the economy and the business. But let's say that there are three major pillars when we are talking about energy security. This is the availability, affordability, and reliability of the energy sources and the energy as a whole. So. And also, at the same time, we should keep this energy security and protect it from potential external disruption. And of course, from utmost importance is also the price fluctuations which are appearing. And the second major topic of the panel is the diversification, of course, and they're interlinked. The security and diversification, because diversification means that we need to secure reliable sources of energy for different kind of infrastructure and to bring it to the end consumers. But let me try to get rid of this theoretical part and go into the practical one and to see how this, let's say, theory is implemented in real life. From that perspective, I would try to, let's say, to turn back the audience in time and to remember that even when I started in Bulgar Transgas in 14 years old, in 2010, what was the Bulgarian gas market looking like? It was a very simple one, just one source of natural gas, 100% dependency from Russia. Bulgar Transgas used to have at that time just two major network users. It was Bulgargas and some, let's say, small private companies, fully underdeveloped market, which was working in a totally different environment. But we started this preparation for these challenges, which we're facing right now, much more back in time. Investing into our system. First of all, could you imagine that at that time, to give like a very simple example, that there is a highway, but this highway is just one direction highway. So all the gas flows were coming from Russia, coming to Bulgaria, going to the regional market, but it was one-way street. So we started investing in our system, preparing the system to be bidirectional, to be reversible, and to could deliver the natural gas from any direction and any source. That was from the infrastructural point of view. We invested in the compressor stations. We invested a lot also in the connectivity, interconnectivity between the countries in the region. And also at the same time, we have invested on the regulatory side, not just the hardware, but also, as I call it, software, in having legally binding interconnection agreements with the neighboring countries, which to allow that flow. And we started much more back in time, even in 2016, to make a reversible flow from Greece to Bulgaria, which allowed us, let's say, to have the real impact on diversified markets, delivering the first LNG originating from the States in 2019 for the Bulgarian market. So from that perspective, we were doing our homework much more back in time. But when I'm talking LNG, I'm still keeping a folder on my desk in the drawer when a strange Greek private company came to me in 2014 trying to present me the project for the Alexandroupolis FSRU. And at that time I was thinking, okay, what are these crazy guys doing here? Yeah, we had a lot of pipeline gas, no disruption, single market, it's exotic. Yeah, but a few years later, we realized that it's not so exotic. It's a real opportunity. And I do consider that we were visionaries in our mentality and thinking that when we decided, of course, with the support of the government, to become a shareholder and to invest in this FSRU several years ago. And the good news, as of today, that I mentioned just in front of some of the journalists, that even yesterday I should have been in Alexandroupolis to see that already the works for laying up the pipe for the offshore part, which is part of the project for the FSRU, is conducted in a good speed and manner, and maybe next week, beginning of next week, it will be finished. So also I'm planning in September this year to be in Singapore, where the ship which will be used for the FSRU is under reconstruction, and to, let's say, monitor the process and to give a little bit of a push of the company there to deliver the project. So, in a few words, we are still moving on track, and we are planning that January 2024, the first volumes of LNG for our project in Alexandroupolis will be delivered to the market, which is good because it's also through the season of the high consumption of natural gas in the region. And that this project will bring this covering these challenges for the energy security for the region, and will play a significant role in the upcoming years. But having in mind also that LNG has some specifics, and the business with the LNG has some specifics, we decided to move further on. Because LNG, to be attractive for the market and to play a vital role for the diversification and to increase the market share of LNG on the European market, means that we need to have a storage facility where this to contribute not just for the price fluctuations, but also for meeting the high demand in certain periods of time, which our market has these specifics. So that's the reason we invested a lot of efforts, a lot also of financial resources for expanding the storage capacity of our underground storage. And we now seeing already the first, let's say, not starting to bury our first fruits from our best endeavors, but tomorrow we will even start the real construction works on the project, on the above the ground equipment. And we are still moving on time, we're in a good track and matching all the processes with the LNG facility in Greece, but also the expanded storage capacity in Chiren to be completed and fully operational by the end of 2024, the Chiren expanded storage capacity. Of course, this strategy needs also additional market assessment, needs additional potential expansion of the interconnectivity between the countries in the region. Because, let's say, the game, it's thinking on a purely domestic, from a national perspective, this game is over. So we need to move further on and to think even not regionally, but much more globally, because we all have one and the same planet. Never mind, okay, it's Europe or Balkans. So from that perspective, we should work on a common strategy, and this is our goal, as Elena mentioned, on an NSOG level, on our future hydrogen. I'm very thankful that one of the previous speakers in the panel which you led was talking about the future of the hydrogen, and even the people from, let's say, nuclear brain facility, they are focusing on hydrogen, and also, so we are not competing with the future development of the nuclear facilities in Bulgaria, but for the region also. But also, so we are also moving in that direction for the hydrogen, which we do consider that it's the future fuel, which will play a significant role in the energy mix. And we are preparing that. We also have some projects which are common projects within the European Hydrogen Backbone Initiative, which are common projects with the neighboring countries, very good cooperation with Greece and Romania further on. So we are prepared to secure the secure energy environment, which I will revert back to the affordable, available, and reliable. Thank you.
This is the best conclusion we could have hoped for. So thank you very much, Mr. Malinov. And then we move on with Dr. Ivanov. As I mentioned already, he is the chair of the Regulatory Commission on Energy and Water policies. So he's been there for 8 years now, and he knows it all. So over to you, Dr. Ivanov. Иван.
Благодаря, Елена. Преди да започна по същество, искам да изкажа искрената си благодарност на посолството на Република Корея и на Атлантическия клуб за това, че са организатори на тази изключително интересна и важна дискусия предвид ролята, която енергетиката играе в развитието на България, на Европа и на света, особено в последните няколко години. Освен това, ще започна с един пример, който показва как се ускорява развитието на енергетиката в технологично отношение и се променя облика на световната енергетика. В 1975 година един известен датски физик, Бент Сьоренсен, беше направил прогноза в научните списания, че в 2050 година Дания ще задоволява всичките си енергийни нужди единствено с слънце и вятър. Тази прогноза беше посрещната с снизходителни усмивки. Днес обаче може да кажем, че особено при ускоряването на енергийната трансформация, която наблюдаваме в последните години, по всяка вероятност Дания и не само тя, ще преминат към възобновяеми енергии и преди 2050 година. Относно темата на днешния ни панел, а тя е свързана с сигурността и с диверсификацията, както каза преди малко и господин Малинов. Темата за сигурността е важна, защото сигурността, заедно с достъпността и устойчивостта, са трите стълба, които трябва да бъдат отстоявани като бъдеща енергия, енергия на бъдещето за хората не само в Европа, но и по целия свят. Енергийната сигурност в последните години беше подложена на изключително сериозно изпитание. От една страна това започна с пандемията и COVID-вируса, но в последните 2 години това се дължи особено много по-голяма степен на войната, която Русия води срещу Украйна. Войната в Украйна е фактически важна за всички нас, които се занимаваме с енергетика, по 2 фундаментални причини. А то е първият урок, който оттам можем да извлечем, че Европа трябва в ускорени темпове да се освободи от фосилните горива, а те са въглища, петрол и газ. Самото освобождаване не може да стане незабавно и има определена последователност, като не заради господин Малинов, но по принцип ще кажа, че природният газ е практически междинното гориво и последния фосилен източник, който човечеството ще се раздели. Втория голямо предизвикателство, което войната в Украйна разкри, е, че трябва да се промени модела на енергийните структури в страните, специално говоря за Европа. Моделът, който беше създаден през 20 век, почиваше върху големи базови мощности. Отначало термични, след това и ядрени. Фактически се оказа, че те са изключително уязвими, особено при военно положение. Явно, че това, което вече тръгва в Европа като политика, е бърза децентрализация на тези енергийни мощности. Двете предизвикателства търсят своето решение по един съвсем очевиден начин. Решението и за двете се събира във възобновяемите енергийни източници. Първо, по отношение на необходимост от децентрализация, вие всички знаете, че възобновяемите енергийни източници са класически пример за децентрализация. От друга страна, поради това, че те не излъчват въглероден диоксид, нито фини и прахови частици, те не допринасят за глобалното затопляне. Виждаме каква е температурата по момента навън, т.е. те работят точно в посока на потискане на глобалното затопляне. Заедно с това, възобновяемите енергийни източници позволяват, колкото повече се развива производство на енергия от тях, да се намалява производството необходимо от фосилните източници. И сега нека да кажем, кой е главният инструмент, за да се решат тези проблеми. Това е именно диверсификацията. При това диверсификация както по отношение на доставчиците, така и по отношение на маршрутите. По отношение на доставчиците, класически пример за пълната диверсификация е това, което се случи в Република България в рамките на последните 2 години в областта на природния газ. Защото само преди 3 години, да кажа със сигурност, 96% от природния газ идваше единствено от Газпром по трансбалканския газопровод и 4% беше местният добив от северното Черноморско крайбрежие. Днес ние не получаваме и една молекула природен газ от Газпром и имаме възможност да получаваме както тръбен, така и ЛНГ, втечен природен газ, след регазификация. В това отношение инфраструктурата е определяща. Построяването на връзката Комотини-Стара Загора и предстоящо, надявам се до края на годината, господин Малинов, пускане в експлоатация на терминала за регазификация в Александруполис, ще ни позволи действително да имаме възможност както за доставка на тръбен природен газ, така и за доставка на регазифициран природен газ от различни доставчици по целия свят. Нещо повече. Това, което искам да добавя към казаното от господин Малинов, е, че с тези два големи проекта, Комотини Стара Загора и терминала в Александруполис, България изпълнява много важна роля за изграждането на вертикалния газов коридор от Егейско море през терминал за регазификация, Комотини Стара Загора, българската газопреносна система, част от която е от трансбалканския газопровод, минаването през Кардам към Негровода или от Русе към Гюргево, по-нататък през Румъния и Полша, изцяло ще бъде завършен до Балтийското крайбрежие този вертикален газов коридор, който реално дава сигурността на газовите доставки за Централна и Източна Европа. Заедно с това не мога да не отбележа, че ние развиваме и нашите междусистемни връзки с съседните страни. Фактически в последните по-малко от 10 години беше реализирана връзката Русе-Гюргево. Сега се строи и се надявам в следващата година да бъде изцяло завършена връзката София-Ниш. Тази година ще бъде завършено, ме коригира даже господин Малинов, което е много добра новина за мен, след като много други проекти през годините бяха наистина затлачени и се развиха с голямо закъснение, но отново 1 милиард и 800 милиона кубични метра природен газ може да бъдат насочени към Сърбия именно от българската национална газопреносна система, след като, разбира се, този газ влезе при нас. Аз ще отбележа обаче, че освен природния газ, другия изключително важен енергиен елемент, това е електроенергията. По отношение на електроенергията, България имаше изградена сравнително добра междусистемна връзка, но изискванията за по-голяма сигурност налагат тези изградени междусистемни връзки да бъдат разширени. Ние можем да обменяме с Румъния 1300, ми се струва, дори не повече, но над 1500-1600 мегавата електрическа енергия. С Гърция 1500, но веднага ще кажа, че от тези 1500, 800 са благодарение на реализираната връзка от Марица Изток до Нея Санта. И по такъв начин България, по отношение на тези две страни, които са членки на Европейския съюз, изпълнява много важни изисквания, които ни се налагат от европейското законодателство. А те са, че преди това 10%, сега вече 15% трябва да бъде капацитета на междусистемните връзки по отношение на инсталираните в съответната страна мощности. България практически изпълнява и по отношение на връзката с Румъния и с Гърция на това изискване. Второто изискване, че разликата в цената на електрическата енергия на съседните борси, имам предвид на България и Румъния, например, трябва да бъде не повече от 2 евро на мегаватт час. Поради развитието на тази междусистемна свързаност в Европа, която наистина рязко повиши сигурността на доставките и нещо повече обвързва страните при наличие на кризисна ситуация, на аварийна ситуация в една държава в 3 степени да бъде помогнато така, че потребителите да не чувстват изобщо че е настъпил кризисен момент. В това отношение фактически България се доближава до европейските изисквания. Има и един трети елемент на диверсификацията. Това е диверсификацията по отношение на технологичните решения. Само до преди, да речем, 10 години се считаше, че единственото средство за съхранение на електрическа енергия това е павица, помпено-акумулиращите ВЕЦ-ови. България има един от най-големите павец в Югоизточна Европа. За съжаление, в момента предстои ремонт, който вероятно ще продължи повече от година. Но към това средство за съхранение вече се добавят редица други. Батериите, които наистина за дребните производители на възобновяема енергия нямат значение, за големите производители, които имат мощност от 50 мегавата нагоре, 100, 200, 300, ние в Комисията за енергийно и водно регулиране издаваме вече лиценз за производство на електрическа енергия от фотоелектрични централи с мощности до 400 мегавата. За тях е абсолютно задължително изграждането на батерии, които да позволят частично в рамките на часове съхраняване на електрическата енергия тогава, когато тя е в излишък, и използването й тогава, когато има недостиг в системата. И към това ще добавя, че се появиха вече гравитационните акумулатори, преобразуването на излишната електрическа енергия в амоняк и зелен водород, преобразуването в компресиран и течен въздух, които в последствие да генерират електрическа енергия в подходящия момент. Съвсем бегло само ще кажа, макар че това не е директно по темата, че Комисията за енергийно и водно регулиране по отношение на осигуряването на междусистемните връзки има ключова роля, защото си спомням, че през месец септември министър Иван Шишков наблюдаваше физическото развитие на връзката Комотин Стара Загора, а КЕВР, българския регулатор, заедно с РАЕ, енергийния регулатор на Гърция, ежедневно надграждаха нормативната база, за да може на 30 септември, дена преди да започне експлоатацията на връзката Комотин Стара Загора, тя да бъде нормативно обезпечена. Също нещо провеждаме и сега, включително за терминала за регазификация в Александруполис. И преди да завърша, България би трябвало съвсем отчетливо да разбере, че бъдещето на енергетиката е действително в възобновяемата енергия. Не става въпрос за някакъв рязък преход, който да създаде тежки социални проблеми, но трябва да се знае посоката и тя да бъде следвана. Това, което се изисква, за да можем да отговорим на европейските изисквания, е инвестициите, които са във възобновяема енергия, да бъдат поне 4 пъти по-големи, отколкото инвестиции, които се правят в източници на електрическа енергия от фосилни източници. Тогава може действително да считаме, че в 2300 година ние ще бъдем с показатели, които са наистина съпоставими на останалите страни от Европейския съюз. Ще отбележа, че ние все още работим, считайки, че в 2300 година трябва да постигнем 30% производство на електроенергия, което да бъде от възобновяеми източници, но вече Европейския съюз е с много по-висока цел и тя стига 42%. И като имам предвид, че голяма част от членовете на Европейския съюз са с много високи цели, уверявам ви, че междувременно 2300 година тези изисквания ще бъдат повишени, тези цели ще бъдат повишени. Решението не е в отлагане на необходимите действия. Решението е в политическа смелост, която съвсем ясно да се изрази в представяне на реалната картина и реализирането и така, че да няма сериозни наистина сътресения в страната. Благодаря ви.
I thank Dr. Ivanov for his detailed contribution, and now we move, as I promised, to our lady at the table. She distinguishes herself also with one more thing. She's been twice to Korea, so she's probably one of our best suited participants on the panel. She has been working number of topics, but mostly electricity and gas market liberalization, infrastructure development, and I look forward to us all hearing more about it. So over to you, Ms. Trifonova.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I've been twice to Korea. The first time it was back in 2017, and it was with Dr. Ivanov. I do remember pretty well that we were invited by Korean companies doing business in Bulgaria, one of them a coin company, the state-owned, and we had really wonderful experience. And we have to admit that we had some problems here in Bulgaria at that time related to the security of the electricity system as a result of too many renewables and some vicious circle of non-payment. And after our visit, shortly after that, the issue was solved. And now everything is just fine. I took note of the new plans for investments here in Bulgaria that the first speaker in the panel raised, and they are welcome to do this, including nuclear sector that was mentioned several times by speakers in the previous panel. Then my second time in Korea was during the session of the Intergovernmental Commission for Economic Cooperation between the two countries. It was in 2019, if I remember correct. And it was also a very good, fruitful experience. So thank you very much for having invited me here. And thanks to the Atlantic Club as well. Related to the issue of energy security, diversification, a lot has already been said, and I wouldn't like to repeat what we have heard. Regarding security, we do think that domestic resources are an important aspect of security. The exploration of domestic resources, unfortunately, Bulgaria has negligible production of natural gas, and what we do have is lignite that causes some problems related to pollution and the green transition. And it will be discussed in the next panel. So I'm not going to say anything more about it. Renewables that are the future, that have been mentioned a number of times, are can also be regarded as domestic resources. Though wind and sun are some nature sources, it depends on where they are utilized. They are not imported. Then, diversification, yes. It is a means of increasing energy security, and it is not just sources of supplies, routes of supplies. It is also diversification of fresh nuclear fuel that was mentioned during the previous panel. It is diversification of technologies. I do fully agree with Dr. Ivanov, and the different means of energy storage and new developments. As the previous speakers talked about their direct responsibilities, I would like to say that my directorate is responsible for institutional support to the projects of common interest for the EU. And the picture has changed a lot since 2013, when was adopted the regulation on guidelines for trans-European energy networks. And Mr. Malinov mentioned, or maybe it was Mr. Ivanov, the interconnection, gas interconnection with Romania. It was not including in the first list, as it was expected to be finalized by 2014. Unfortunately, it took longer for it to be finalized, as it happens with a lot of such large projects. And then a number of projects were included in this PCI list. This PCI is kind of a label, and projects included in it are eligible for EU financing for studies and works. And with such funds co-financing, there was an extensive modernization, rehabilitation of the national natural gas transmission system of Bulgar-Transgas. Also, funding was received for the gas interconnection with Serbia, that is the construction of which is to be finalized this autumn. The expansion of Chiren gas storage facility also got some funds, grants for 3D seismics, for construction works, and even today, I think Deputy Minister Nenov mentioned that there will be a groundbreaking ceremony on real works for expansion of the storage. And now we have a list of PCIs in which only in our region of Southeast Europe there are gas projects, but in the new one, to be adopted by the end of this year, there will be no natural gas projects whatsoever. That is a change of the situation. And Mr. Malinov mentioned that they are working with the neighboring gas TSOs on hydrogen projects and on modifications to the pipelines to accommodate hydrogen. And they also had a smart grid project in the candidates to be included in the list, but unfortunately not a single project in this field qualified, so this is something to happen in the future. And a number of electricity PCIs were implemented. The last one is from Marice Tunea Santa. I don't think that groundbreaking ceremony has taken place, not yet, but I took part in the inauguration. Yeah, it is completed, but I cannot recall a ceremony on it. But I do remember pretty well that just before COVID kick, there was an inauguration ceremony. It was, I think, the 12th of March 2020. The Greeks didn't come. They were afraid, but I was there to give some impetus to this development. And now we have it in operation. Of course, ceremonies are something symbolic. They do not really matter. In between inauguration and then putting into operation, there is a lot of work to be done. And last to say that gas is a transitional fuel, yes, but We have some proposals for gas projects to be included in Repower EU chapter of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, and that is not the construction of new pipelines, but increase of capacities, including the one of the Trans-Balkan pipeline to be used in reverse mode, as well as the existing pipelines from Coate to Sidiru-Castro and from Sidiru-Castro to Coate, increase of capacity in both directions, and increase of the capacity of the pipeline to the Republic of North Macedonia. So thank you very much for the attention, and I guess that we are short of time. I don't think I have spoken more than the gentleman, because we are notorious for talking a lot. I have tried to stick to the point and not to repeat things said. Thank you.
Thank you. You don't know how appreciative I am of your approach, because you're right, it's usually we, the better half of humanity, that carry this criticism along. So you've just proven everybody wrong. Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Tsvetkova. So now we have to give a round of applause to this panel. Thank you very much indeed. And I am very happy to invite the next and last panel, panel number 3, to join me here. And I trust that these conversations will continue. Mrs. Tsvetkova, I expect you will be available around here for further discussions. Now I would like to invite Mr. Vladislav Panev, who is representing several things. But he will, when he joins us here, I'll tell you more. Now I keep it secret. So Mr. Panev, please, over here. Then Mr. Kaloyan Staikov, who is chief economist from the Energy Management Institute, and Mr. Yasin Georgiev, also, who is from the Economic Policy Institute. We have another lady here, but she's more cautious. She's not joining us in person physically. She is joining us virtually. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Please be seated. So, panel number 3 obviously should deal, judging by the participants, should deal with the green transition and the expected changes in the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So we have here, you've heard the names of the participants. I don't think, are we leaving a free seat here? Whatever. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. You're right, that's a missing leg. Right, and the missing lady who's over here. So anyway, back to work. Mr. Vladislav Panov is the first contributor here. As I told you, he wears a number of hats. He is a member of parliament. He is the deputy chair of the Committee on Economic Policy and Innovations, but he also leads the Green Party, so I think he will make a kind of a mix of all these capacities in his presentation. Over to you, Mr. Panev.
Well, thank you very much. So, about the resilience plan, you probably all of you are aware that at the beginning of the year, the National Parliament decided that the government would negotiate with the European Commission amendments to the plan in terms of the heating centrals in Mohyca East region. The thing is that according to the Recovery and Resilience Plan, we have to reduce our emissions from electricity by 40% for the next few years, next 4 years, I guess. And it seemed likely that we will not do this goal because of the high energy prices, which were until this winter. The situation now, the market environment now is quite different, with energy prices reaching zero during some of the weekends in spring. Probably that will be the case also during the autumn this year. So the government is negotiating right now with the European Commission about the amendments to the plan. As far as I know, the amendments should be to shut down some of the most polluting heating centrals in not only in Maritsa East but in whole Bulgaria, also in the Kyustendil region and in Haskovo region as well. And also to reduce the work of the government-owned Maritsa East 2 during the next few years, as well as you know that so-called American centrals, the contracts with American centrals are ending. The first one in 2024, the second one in 2026. So there will be a lot of possibility to reduce the number of emissions. So it's very important to maintain such an energy environment that will be competitive in Bulgaria. I mean, we have to invest more in the energy grid in order to be able to connect more renewable energy to the grid. We have to invest more in batteries, both in Chaiha to renovate Chaiha and in batteries for the national for the recovery and resilience plan. So with investments in these fields, we will be able to attract investments in renewable energy for, let's say, a few thousand megawatts of energy in the next years. There are files for maybe 40,000 megawatts for photovoltaics in Bulgaria, as well as in other countries, of course. Of course, not all of them will be are real investments and real proposals, because there are like, let's say, they're buying some lottery ticket and trying to resell it. And I guess that, yeah, I think the vision for the energy sector from now on should be to invest in, first in savings of energy, second in the grid. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was short and sweet, as they say, and very much to the point, very consistent. So thank you so very much, Mr. Panev. We move on to Mr. Kaloyan Staikov, who, as I mentioned already, is actually the chief economist of the Energy Management Institute. But he also worked for the Institute of Market Economy for many years, and most importantly, he's known for analysis in the sphere of public finances, energy, healthcare. And I would also like to highlight one more engagement of his, and he belongs to a group of economists who insist on intensifying competition in the energy field up to its full liberalization. I would imagine you have opponents to that kind of view, but you will tell us more about it. So over to you, Mr. Staikov.
Thank you for this kind introduction and for the invitation. I have a suggestion, though. Would you mind if we let the lady of the panel take the floor and not leave her for last this time? Thank you.
Oh my God, good manners have not died. Thank you so very much. That's that one more added kind of quality of yours. Very well. Then, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Can you hear us, Ms. Trifonova? Excellent. Thank you for joining us, although virtually. Actually, Ms. Trifonova, she is with the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration at the Sophia University. And she will actually, of course, speak on the green transition and any other specific aspects of it, I trust. So over to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you to the Atlantic Club and the Korean Embassy for the invitation to participate in this forum. And thank you, Kaloyan, for giving me the floor first, or not second. I actually hadn't planned to start with exactly this topic, which I would like to raise, but I was kind of provoked by the statements made in the previous panels, and I believe this is very important when we are talking about the green transition in the country. I continuously notice in the last couple of months the trend that energy experts and institutional representatives have been actively discussing and repeating the statement or even the mantra in the public space, claiming that in Bulgaria electricity demand will increase so much that we won't cope without large mega gigawatt base load capacities. And thus putting all the plans for renewable energy and green policies somewhere in the background. I should notice that very often such statements are accompanied with some numbers which are actually like make just on a piece of paper, not based on complex modeling or complex calculations. And these assertions are not usually supported by the forecasts of the European Commission or some more comprehensive tools which model the entire Bulgarian economy. So one of these models, the so-called Path Explorer, which we currently focus on and use in detail in the Energy Transition Commission, shows actually that even if we do not base our assumption on a very ambitious targets, the electricity demand in the country wouldn't come more than 36 terawatt hours by 2050, which is something like a 12% increase compared to 2015. I heard in the previous panel something about 40 plus terawatt hours. Additionally, the increase in the energy demand is not a desired trend, also by the European institution, and it is not aligned with the decarbonization goals, which actually first puts the efficiency. So the first rule of the so-called green policies is efficiency first and energy saving first. And then the energy consumption should be also moderated. So it doesn't mean that we should transfer for a diesel car to 20.5 million electric vehicles by 2050 now. It means that policies should be planned to encourage citizens to use shared transportation, qualitative, fast and accessible public transportation. Or there should be also policies in place which target higher higher savings in the building sector. So this is very important when we actually plan capacities for renewable energy sources or any kind of baseload capacities which are needed in order to balance the renewable energy technologies which we are expecting to be increased in the system. Then secondly, I want to also say that fears are being piled up in the public that by embracing a high share of green energy, our system won't be sound and will need also investment in baseload capacities. Otherwise, we could be in a situation at home when we are not having access to electricity. So this is also not really confirmed. And by any models or by any other projections also made by some of our neighbor countries. So even on the contrary, the European electricity market model, which results of which we received like 1 month ago, it is operated by the Hungarian company REC. And it was based also on some assumption made in the Energy Transition Commission. And also it assumed an increase of the RES capacities by 5-fold by 2050, which is a huge actually increase in the renewable energy capacities. Without including any new gas or nuclear capacities, it clearly shows that there is no missing reserves in any of the years or in any of the 8 scenarios, including sensitivities of the model. So this is to confirm, and there were also no anomalies in terms of the wholesale electricity prices. So I believe that when we are talking about planning the energy transition, it is not about always about giving incentives to renewable energy investments. It is also how we actually plan the consumption and how we look at it, which is also directly related to the way how we plan the grid. And also, we should observe all these trends which are emerging in the other sectors, like industry, transportation, and buildings. And then just a few statements which I actually wanted to focus during my speech in this panel. First, the situation with the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we see that we are really delaying in terms of its implementation. For the last 1 year, I only see arguments against reforms and investment in these plans. In this plan, of course, this is not energy strategy. This plan is not the only thing that we need to implement in order to make the green transition happen. There are so many other measures that are needed, but it is a good way to get funding, public funding, and to provide it for structural reforms and important investments for a period of time which is very limited, which could be actually a good push for us, considering that we are so delayed in terms of the energy transition in the country. So my ask to the policymakers, also here on the table, but also the one represented in the previous panel, is to look how we can really make this investment happen and to stop thinking of how to renegotiate them or restructure them completely in other form, because this is just delaying the implementation, and it risks the opportunity to receive this funding. And I believe it is pretty much needed in the current situation. It was very much controversial, the huge storage project in this plan. And here I just want to note that looking at the state aid notification from the last 1.5 years from the countries like Romania, Hungary, Greece, Cyprus, and so on, you will see that they are so much advanced in terms of receiving already and allocating their funding from their National Recovery and Resilience Plan to storage projects. There was also a change in the state aid notification procedure in June this year, requiring that REST to storage, which gives us a very clear sign how we can redesign this project in order to be very fast in terms of allocating the funding through tenders. And not giving us a lot of freedom in terms of the design of these tenders. This is something that I also wanted to note. And then another topic, which is not really related to the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, but I don't think that this is something that we should postpone in the time. And this is investment in large-scale renewable energy projects. It is obvious for all of us that we can't count on one particular energy source, which in the last year seemed to be PV. And here it is very important to get the balance between different energy sources. And in terms of large-scale investment, the most appropriate one will be offshore wind, a topic that you know that I raise many times, and I work on that. And here I just want to know that Romania announced this week that they are already done with the legislation, which we expected like last year. and they are going to allocate tenders and contract for difference support to investors interested in the development of offshore wind energy projects in their section of the Black Sea, totaling 3 gigawatts. I think this is a very urgent also call for Bulgaria to join these efforts, and also to apply with Romania for common funding of infrastructure and technical assistance through the Connecting Europe facility. We missed several calls, but now again in November is the next call for a cross-border project. And we have also a good track record of how this fund was utilized in Estonia, but also now Italy and Croatia also announced that they are going to use this source of funding and technical assistance for cross-border projects in their common section of Adriatic Sea. So I think it's urgent for Bulgaria to join these efforts and to make wide steps towards unlocking also this potential. And then, of course, it's very important, it is a part of National Recovery and Resilience Plan to allocate areas for accelerated RES deployment, not only onshore, but also offshore. And here, this is also very important to be connected with centralized planning of the grid and the very transparent allocation of the grid connection cost. I think this is one of the major bottlenecks currently for the REST investors. And I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now back to gentleman Kaloyan-Staikov.
Thank you, Mrs. Poptodorova, for the kind words. Again, Your Excellency, dear guests, thank you for the invitation. It's an honor and a pleasure for me. I'll try to focus on the Recovery and Resilience Plan, its current situation, what the problems related to it were and currently are, and of course, just as Maria was, I was provoked by another statement from the previous panel, so I'll mention something as well. So first of all, every time we talk about the Recovery and Resilience Plan, I feel the urge to remind everybody that this is not your typical EU funding. This is not another operational program, a cohesion fund, a social fund, or something like this. This is the age-old idea of the EU to finance something and get reforms in return. So the so-called money for reforms or funding for reforms or something like this. So on one side you have different criteria each country has to meet in terms of reforms, which are pre-negotiated based on the European semester, mentioned in the country-specific reports, which are annually published, and so on and so forth. So this is one part of the issue. The other part of the issue is that financing is fixed in fixed in a timeline. So there's not going to be any financing beyond June 2026. Unlike operational programs, which have a 7-year period, then you have another 2 years to make the final payments. Currently, it's plus 3 years and so on. So there's a lot of flexibility currently in EU financing and a lot less related to the Recovery and Resilience Plan. And this is very important because the idea of actually losing money related to the plan is much more real compared to other forms of EU financing. Now, the current problems with the fund are that Bulgaria has, as Mr. Panev mentioned, Bulgaria has decided to renegotiate some of the points and reforms related to the plan, and currently we don't have any development on this topic. And because of this, a lot of other reforms have been stopped. The Commission for Energy Transition is currently not working, and I still think that this is one of the main reasons, because they don't have a scenario to work on. As soon as they have one, they will start working again, and then we can move on with different legislation, developments, and negotiations, and so on and so forth. This process can take a lot of time. There was some idea in the government in the beginning of the year that maybe the Commission will pretty much accept anything. And a couple of months later, we saw that that wasn't the case. So the Commission is very strict in terms of reforms and engagements that the government has to adhere to. So this renegotiation process is still on the table. We have currently no timeline. Maybe Mr. Panev can mention something about this, although I'm sure this is not exactly in his, it's not entirely up to him. But this is an issue, and this issue relates to both reforms and future disbursements of funds, and of course funding for project. As I mentioned, funding for project has to end by the middle of 2026. Any delay in negotiations, in actual developments, implementation of reforms and plans, of course means a delay in payments, disbursements from the EU to Bulgaria, and then payments to, for actual projects, and this creates different problems. Another issue with the RRF is that it creates a lot of obligations for different stakeholders. So, for example, it envisions an increase in renewable energy investments, which is a great idea in itself. But of course, this goes, as Maria mentioned, with investments in infrastructure, namely the electricity grid. Unfortunately, the plan doesn't give the tools to invest enough in the energy grid. So on one hand, we have the obligations, and on the other hand, we don't have enough tools to actually make the obligations work. When I brought up this topic a couple of weeks ago, a lot of experts and politicians mentioned, well, the RRF is not the only tool available. We have different tools. We can do anything we want with the other financing mechanism, with national financing and so on and so forth, which is, of course, true in any case. The problem with this is that all of these processes have to go hand in hand. So you can't make the obligations, so change the legislation, make the obligations to integrate renewable energy sources now, and then in a couple of years disperse some funds to actually make the grid capable of integrating those energy sources. And this is just the capital portion. The operational problem with managing renewable energy sources is something that we don't talk enough about, but currently in Bulgaria we have this problem, and by the way, this is a problem in the EU as a general. Some renewable energy sources are being connected to areas with relatively low consumption, and new consumers are being added to the grid in other areas. So production is increasing in one place geographically, and then consumption is increasing in another place, which creates different and new problems for the energy grid, both distribution grids and transmission grids to solve. And this is something we're going to see more and more in the future. So these disparities between obligations and actual tools that can actually develop the capabilities to meet those obligations is something I think Maria mentioned, and I completely agree. The bottleneck currently is the electricity grid, and again, it goes both for transmission grids, which have one set of problems to solve, and for distribution grids, which have another completely different set of problems to solve. This is something that has to be addressed, and I thought that this would be addressed in the RRF. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And at the end, just an observation about the whole process of renewable energy sources. I have no illusion that this is the direction the world in general is going into. So, of course, the share of renewables is going to be increasing, and of course, with increasing renewables, we're going to see new and different problems which both the grid, the regulators, businesses have to solve. What is very interesting and very specific with regard to renewables is that politicians have lost ownership of this process. If you think back to, let's say, 2010, 2012, the sector was mainly driven by political decisions, by programs which were aimed to stimulate renewable energy penetration into the energy system. And as soon as some target was met, think back to 2014, for example, Bulgaria meets its target for renewable energy sources until 2020. And all of these programs, subsidies, and everything else just stops. And along with the ceasing programs, of course, the development of new energy, new renewable energy sources investments connecting to the grid and so on stopped as well. And Bulgaria was no exception in this case. If you look at other countries, Romania, Greece, for example, you can see a flat line in new renewable energy sources projects between 2012 and, let's say, 2018, 2019. Now, this project is completely out of the hands of politicians, which means it's more or less uncontrollable. Think back to last year and think to this year. Last year, there was a boom in renewable energy investments due to, of course, high energy prices, risks of security of supply, and so on. So this is completely logical and reasonable, if you ask me. This year, these investments continue. So, for example, just for Bulgaria, the expectation is that around 700 megawatts of new renewables are going to be connected to the grid for this year alone. By the way, there's a milestone in the RRF for Bulgaria for the creation of a support scheme for renewables plus storage. And the milestone for Bulgaria is to actually make tenders, to make auctions for the installation of 285 megawatts of renewables plus storage. So the milestone is for 285, and we're expecting 700 just for this year. So this process is more or less uncontrollable at this point. And it's not just the energy sector, it's the financial sector as well, because financial sectors have shareholder obligation to invest, to at least have some part of their business related to renewables. Then you have corporate players which have another obligation to their shareholders to, for example, reduce emissions in the next couple of years and reach net zero by 2050. So businesses are investing in this, and this process currently cannot be stopped by reasonable means. Of course, at any point there can be some brute administrative decisions to actually halt the process, but I don't see this happening anytime soon. So in conclusion, I would just like to say that this process is, of course, going to create new issues, new challenges. We're going to, at some point, find the solution to those challenges. But the uncontrollability of the process makes the system very vulnerable to different threats. I'm not saying, of course, that we should just reconsider the direction we're moving in and go back to coal, natural gas, and I'm not saying this. I'm just saying that we should move a little bit more careful than we did 10 years ago. We should focus a lot more on the energy transition of the industry as a whole and a lot less on the energy industry. And we should look a lot more to the electricity grids and how they can actually help balance the system and balance interests between consumers on one hand and producers on the other hand, and how exactly, what tools we can use to make the grids more flexible in terms of both managing intermittent generation and actually connecting them to the grid. And I'm hoping for some kind of a discussion afterwards. So thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Yasin Georgiev is the executive director of the EPI, the Economic Policy Institute, which is a Sofia-based institution with 25 plus years of experience in analyzing economic and multidimensional, as you described them, trends in the region and in Eastern Europe in general. So please go ahead and talk to us about these analyses that you've been making.
So, Ms. Chairperson, thank you very much for your kind introduction. Your Excellency, colleagues, I'm very happy to be here, and I would like to express my gratitude both to the Embassy of Korea and Atlantic Club for this extremely timely and topical discussion. Why it is topical and timely? I think we all have been discussing this the whole morning. So I feel a little bit challenged to speak last today. because I do realize that I stand between the panel and the cocktail, which is going to be served, or it is already served out there. But at the same time, I would like to do a very brief coverage of this topic, which is really multidimensional, as you mentioned, because what we have seen in the recent years is that issues, especially related to energy, are multidimensional. So they're not only affecting producers and consumers, but the whole economy. Before going into the topic, I would like just to mention that since the year 2020, we at the Economic Policy Institute have been implementing a program which is called the Next Generation Korea Fellowship Incubator. And within this program, we try to support young experts who work on topics of bilateral importance, I mean for Korea and for Bulgaria / the European Union. And what we have observed for the last 4 years is an increasing interest in topics related to decarbonization, energy efficiency, nuclear energy, hydrogen, which means that young experts who work in this field are very much sought after these days, and it is good that this platform is paying its contribution to having a dialogue between Bulgaria and Korea. So back to the topic. First, I would like to mention that when we speak about the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, it is a piece of a puzzle, because you cannot understand the plan without taking into consideration the whole picture. And part of this picture is the National Energy and Climate Plan, which each country of the European Union has to update or to upgrade after being passed or accepted several years ago. Part of this puzzle is also the Just Transition Plan, and we know that there's several bottlenecks in this issue. So when we look at the Recovery and Resilience Plan, we have to consider that it is multidimensional, because it is also having links to many other strategic documents, and you cannot just change the plan without changing the other plan. So it is like a very sophisticated structure. And when we speak about the decision of the Parliament from early January this year to start renegotiating the targets, we have to bear in mind that it's not like just go to the Brussels and start to put something new on the table. The process is much more deep, I should say. And from that point of view, yes, the plan is not an isolated island. It is very much linked to the overall energy picture. And what is important, and it has to be mentioned, and I think it was in a way mentioned during the event today, is firstly that the plan was reduced in size. As you look to the regulation, it said that the initial amount of the plan will be corrected for each single country of the European Union according to the performance of each country. And last year, because Bulgaria performed better than expected during the first COVID year, the total amount of money that will be directed to Bulgaria was reduced by almost 500 million euro, if I'm not wrong, which means that we have to commit to our obligations by having less money from the European Union. And it is not quite clear right now which projects will be reduced, downsized, or in a way supported by national funding. So this is something that we have also to take into consideration. Secondly, it was already mentioned several times, the delays that we have accumulated in the plan. Right now, we are in the beginning of the fourth phase, I mean, in order to receive the fourth installment. But if we look back, we can see that only the milestones and targets that are part of the Recovery and Resilience Plan, and as Kalyan already mentioned, this is not like you're providing the invoice to the European Commission and it reimburses you. It is a plan that necessitates reforms. And these reforms are embedded into the form, into the shape of milestones and targets. And when a country is ready with achieving its milestones and targets, it could send the installment request to the European Commission. We did it with the first installment. It was delayed, and now, if you look, the second installment or the second payment was due to December last year. And according to this period, Bulgaria had to accomplish 66 milestones and targets. And as of today, if you look at the government system, you can see that only 33 out of these 66 milestones and targets have been achieved. Of course, this is also due to the political situation in the country, because several of these reforms or milestones are linked to changes in the legislation. And as we already know, because of this constant wave of parliamentary elections, many of these bills are still not adopted. And if you don't have these bills adopted, you cannot ask for installment by the European Commission. And now, a month ago, actually by the end of June, the 13th installment period just passed away. And we have implemented 3 out of 43 milestones and targets. You can see that we have already accumulated a significant delay. And the more we think about renegotiating or changing the plan as it is, the more time we're losing. So what our previous speakers mentioned is that actually we have 2 main options. Either we continue to think how to renegotiate and to change the targets till 2026, and then it's over, because Koyan mentioned rightly that this funding will expire then, with no chances to prolong it as the European or the traditional European programs allow for. Or we should start to think how to intensify the process and try to catch up as much as we can. And in this regard, okay, now we have the chance to start negotiations or to continue negotiations with the European Commission. And this is also true for all the other countries, because now we have the Repower EU chapter, which will be added to the recovery and resilience plans in all the countries. And this coincided with our official wish to change the target. But as the people from the European Commission mentioned, you cannot just drop some reforms, and you cannot just do this without putting something else on the table. So, okay, we might not be willing to reduce the greenhouse emissions by 40% in the energy sector, but we have to propose something else in return. And what we have seen, or what we have not seen so far, is what is our official proposal. And I think many of the stakeholders here in the hall will agree that we need more transparency in that field, because you cannot think about a long-term strategy, a long-term direction without having an idea what is going to be implemented in the next several months or several years. And now there are some discussions what could be achieved, what could be, put on the table. There are some discussions about continuing the exploitation of the coal-fired power plants, but not all of them. So we have to be clear on this, that some old and outdated facilities should be gradually phased out in the coming years. And I'm not speaking about 2038 or something like this. I'm speaking in the next several years, which necessitates, as already mentioned by Mr. Ivanov, political courage. Somebody to go in front and to take the lead, although it might not be very politically sustainable, to say that this is the direction, and we cannot stop the wave from coming. It's better to think how to make good use of this wave. And of course, it's also human and social issue, because people who are employed in this carbon and coal dependent regions are not offered many opportunities, and they are not offered many opportunities not because there's no money for this, but we can speak a lot about this. So I'm not willing to watering the discussion and to continue. Just would like to finalize by mentioning two main challenges. So on the one hand side, it is the challenge to decide which option would be better, to continue delaying the process or to start working intensively. And the second big challenge, I think, is to increase the transparency in order to increase the ownership, because it seems that many stakeholders in the country do not recognize the plan as something that is made for them. And these are not only people working in these co-regions, but I should say also people in the administration. They are not quite convinced that this plan is fit for the purpose and it is good for Bulgaria. So we have to work in several directions in order to make this plan happen. And as already mentioned, we don't have much time. So let's get to work. And let's hope that now when we have a more, let's say, a little bit more predictable political situation, there will be enough vision for embracing the change.
Thank you. So again, let's applaud these panelists. Actually, this brings us to the end of a very rich morning, a very rich program. I continue to insist that we had a stellar collection of speakers today, and a lot of information was shared with us, which at times was maybe even difficult to process. So the good thing is that we can always go to the internet, go online to revisit and to kind of go over the information of today's discussions again. I would especially like to thank again the Ambassador Designate of the Republic of Korea, Ambassador Bae. Thank you to the embassy, to your team, Ambassador, who were so responsive and helpful in putting it together. And thank you to the government of Korea for being such a good friend of Bulgaria throughout the years. I think this was a unique opportunity, and thank you for the opportunity, indeed, to hold a high-level professional discussion on one of the most pressing challenges of our time, and this is our energy security. So, closing officially this conference, I do hope we will continue in a less intense fashion outside at the cocktail. Thank you all.